issue more than a private acquisition issue.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to have so many miles of connected greenway before people start using it? Is there some minimum requirement to begin?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. It's clear that there was some considerable pent-up demand for this, because we have examples of a couple of projects in particular where the people who were watching the greenway being developed in their neighborhood literally followed the paving truck. As the truck was paving a particular area, they were walking behind it. So it sounds trite to say that if you build it, they will come, but in fact, that seems to have been the case in just about all of the investments, all of the projects that we have supported. It gets really exciting, though, when you start seeing the connections between communities, and that's when the communities collectively actually really embrace the project, when they can start seeing how it affects their community directly rather than thinking about it again as these discrete parcels of land.
Are issues such as separated biking, walking, a problem for you?
Yes, they are, or could be, I should say. Occasionally you'll find where the corridor is being used by both groups, and there needs to be a way to accommodate bikers as well as walkers. And in those instances where it is a single lane pathway, the communities have developed protocol so that bikers use one side and walkers use the other. In some instances and in some communities, we're actually seeing communities develop separated parallel paths so that the bikers have one path and the walkers have another. And in the more urban areas where you can use the streets, the bike lanes are actually a much safer place for bikers to be.
You mentioned Pittsburgh and Denver as two communities that advocated greenways that caught your attention. Are there communities that serve for you as a model of what you want to do?
There are communities throughout the country. We, by no stretch of the imagination, are the first to have looked at greenways as a community development strategy, and it's really been both refreshing and remarkable to see how it has spread throughout the country. Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Seattle, Portland, San Diego, New York, Boston, they've all got terrific capital investment programs to invest in those walkable opportunities. And so as you take a look, Carol, at the urban landscape and what's going on in the cities, I think that you'll find that in virtually every city where the city is trying to create or restore a vibrancy to its urban core, you'll find that greenways or walkability has become a critical issue.
This is a technical question, Tom, but is there one coordinated design for the greenway, even though various communities are executing it? Is there one contractor, or is this simply done really on with the vision is simply a connected greenway, and here's generally the direction it would take, but it's sort of every community to itself in terms of the materials, in terms of the signage, in terms of the contracting for it?
To some degree, it's the latter. Each community obviously has to define what it can do within its own community. They respond based on their own resources and needs. However, over the 8 or 9 years that the GreenWays Initiative has operated here at the Community Foundation, we have, on roughly a quarterly basis, brought in experts on whatever the issue of the day might be for communities. So, for example, if they want to learn a little bit more about design standards, we'll bring in some experts who can speak to those particular issues, or if they want to learn about maintenance issues, or if they want to learn about integrating the natural landscape with the design features. We've hosted approximately 20 or 25 events over the last 7 or 8 years, and those events have helped to create essentially a boilerplate or a standard of best practices that many people have used and are adopting. I think one of the more graphic illustrations of that was a number of years ago. People were interested in wayfinding and branding, that is signage, essentially. And so we brought in the person who designs the wayfinding system for the national park system throughout the country and created a manual that illustrates how you use wayfinding to get people around your community. And the information that was provided is now being used by most of the communities to design their wayfinding systems. So that's how we try to encourage people to work together.
Interesting. What are the biggest challenges you've faced in putting the project together?
The most obvious one and the easy one to answer, although certainly not the only one, is money. These are expensive projects. They take a long time. They're capital investment projects. A couple of GreenWays experts who we've worked closely with have often told us that if everything goes perfectly, if the money is in place and all the permits issue on time, if everything goes perfectly from conception to ribbon cutting will take a minimum of 7 years. So the length of time and the amount of available resources, particularly in this current economic climate, make for a bit of a challenge. In addition to that, a lot of it has to do with the existing infrastructure. What's there, what you need to get around, how you need to design these to either accommodate or go through certain facilities to make sure that the corridor remains connected while still honoring the infrastructure as it may exist. And corresponding with that is policy issues that the local municipalities may have that may not embrace the development of greenways or may not include alternative uses of the landscape.
If you were starting again today, Tom, on this project, what arguments would you make now to justify it?
Well, I think that we argued pretty effectively when we first started the project about the impact that it would have. I think that I probably would suggest that we need a little more time and we need a lot more money. As I was framing the issue to begin with back in 2000 and 2001, I focused a lot on the walkability and the community vibrancy, and all of that is played out. What I didn't stress at that time was the health benefits. It's become abundantly clear that greenways have the potential for being a very important component of a healthy lifestyle. And we learned that certainly early on and have talked about that since. I think, though, that that's a very important part of the opening conversation that people should have about greenways. I think that we would also emphasize the economic impacts that they could have, because we're seeing that played out again in all of the communities where these take place.